Welcome to English Through Great Stories. I'm glad you're here. Today we journey through one of the most quietly powerful books ever written, The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles. Imagine a man sitting alone at a writing desk in the early 1900s. The world around him is changing fast. Factories, railroads, electricity. Fortunes are being made, and yet most people wake up every morning already knowing they will not have enough. Enough money, enough time, enough life. This man, Wallace Wattles, believed there was a reason for that. Not bad luck, not fate, not the cruelty of the world. He believed there was a science behind wealth. A set of laws, and that anyone at all who learned those laws and applied them faithfully would become rich, without exception. The book he wrote in 1910 was small, quiet. It did not shout, but the ideas inside it have never stopped moving through the world. Over a century later, people still read it, copy it, teach it, and live by it. Today, you will hear why. Chapter 1. The Right to be Rich. Wattles begins with something that might surprise you. He does not begin with strategy or discipline or hard work. He begins with a simple, bold declaration. It is right to be rich. Not just acceptable, not just allowed, right. For many people, especially in 1910, this was a difficult idea to accept. Religion and culture often taught that money was dangerous, that wanting more was selfish, that the truly good person was the humble person, the one who asked for little and was grateful for whatever little they received. Wattles looked at this idea and said, no. To live a complete human life, a life of health, beauty, love, knowledge, and joy, you need resources. You need money. A person without enough money is always limited. They cannot fully develop their mind. They cannot care for their family. They cannot grow. And a person who cannot grow is, in some deep way, not fully alive. Think of a musician who cannot afford an instrument, or a scientist who cannot afford books, or a parent who wants to give their child a good education but cannot. These are not small problems, they are wounds on the human spirit. Wattles believes that poverty, true grinding poverty, is not noble. It is not holy. It is simply unnecessary. And the desire to be rich? That desire, he said, is not greed. It is the desire for a fuller, richer, more complete life. It is the deepest expression of the human urge to grow, to become more, to experience everything that life can offer. That desire, properly understood, is beautiful, and it is the beginning of everything. Chapter 2. There is a science. Now here is where Wattles makes his most striking claim. Getting rich, he says, is not a matter of environment. It is not about the country you were born in, or the city you live in, or the industry you work in. It is not about talent, education, or even intelligence. He points to something we all know instinctively. Two people can begin in almost identical circumstances, and one will build a fortune while the other struggles all their life. Two brothers raised in the same house, going to the same school. One becomes wealthy, one does not. Why? It is not luck, Wattles insists. There is a cause. There is always a cause. He says, getting rich follows laws as precise as the laws of mathematics. 2 plus 2 is always 4. Drop a stone and it always falls. Plant a seed correctly, water it, give it sunlight, it grows. These are not suggestions, they are laws. Nature does not make exceptions, and Wattles believed that wealth follows the same kind of law. If you think in a certain way and act in a certain way, you will become rich. Not might, not possibly, will. As certainly as a planted seed under the right conditions will grow into a tree. This was his great promise, and to understand it fully, he took his reader to a very unusual place. Not to a bank, not to a marketplace, not to a library of business books. He took them to the very beginning of things, to the substance from which all things are made. Chapter 3, The Thinking Stuff. Here we enter the philosophical heart of Wattles' world. He asks us to imagine something extraordinary. Imagine that everything you can see, every rock, every tree, every ocean, every star, every human body, is made of one original substance. One invisible, formless material that existed before the universe itself. He calls it the formless substance, or the thinking stuff, and it is alive with intelligence. It does not sit passively, waiting. It thinks, it desires, it creates. In fact, Wattles says all of creation, every flower, every mountain, every galaxy, is simply the formless substance taking shape, following its own inner thought. Now you may ask, is this science? Is this religion? Is this philosophy? Wattles himself does not worry too much about the label. He says, I do not ask you to prove this. I ask you to accept it as a working hypothesis. Use it, see if it works, and then decide what to call it. Wattles draws what he sees as the crucial conclusion. If the universe is made of a thinking substance, a substance that responds to thought, then human thought has real creative power. Not in a vague, poetic sense, he insists, in a literal, practical one. Wattles believed that you have, right now, inside your mind, access to the same creative force that shaped the stars. When you think a clear, vivid, purposeful thought, he said, that thought goes out into the formless substance and begins the process of creation. Like a stone dropped into still water, the ripples move outward. Something begins to happen. This is not wishful thinking. Wattles is very clear about that. It is not daydreaming. It is not simply imagining and hoping. It is the disciplined, deliberate, consistent use of thought as a creative tool. And learning to use that tool correctly, that is the science of getting rich. Chapter 4. Thought is the creative force. So how exactly does thought create? Wattles explains it carefully. When you hold a clear and specific image in your mind, not a vague wish, but a vivid, detailed picture, and you hold it with faith, with gratitude, and with unwavering purpose, that image impresses itself on the formless substance. Think about the difference between a vague wish and a clear vision. A vague wish says, I want to be wealthy someday. A clear vision says, I see myself in a comfortable home. I see the work I do. I see the people I help. I see the money I earn. I feel the security. I feel the freedom. I feel gratitude for it, right now, as if it has already begun. This is what Wattles calls thinking in the certain way. Not anxious thinking, not desperate thinking, not the constant mental rehearsal of problems and fears, which, he warns, also impresses itself on the formless substance, but with the opposite result. Wattles believed that repeatedly focusing on fear could influence the choices we make and the opportunities we fail to see. By contrast, confident and purposeful thinking could prepare us to recognize possibility and act upon it. He gives a striking example from nature. A seed does not worry about whether it will grow. It does not doubt the soil or question the sun. It simply contains within it the complete pattern of the plant it will become, and it gives that pattern to the earth with perfect confidence. The earth receives it, and growth begins. Wattles says you must do the same. Hold the clear image of what you want and give it to the universe through sincere, unwavering thought, with the same calm certainty that the seed gives itself to the earth. Do not look for signs. Do not watch anxiously for results. Simply know, and then act. But Wattles adds a warning here that many people overlook. Wattles advises readers not to let constant attention to poverty and scarcity dominate their minds. He believed that attention should be directed towards solutions, growth, and the creation of greater abundance. Chapter 5. The Certain Way. The certain way, at its heart, comes down to 3 daily disciplines, practiced together, held consistently. The first element is faith. Not blind faith, not faith in something you cannot understand or explain, but practical faith, the deep, settled conviction that what you are doing will work. The same faith a farmer has when he plants seeds in spring, even though the harvest is months away. He does not see the crop, but he knows it is coming, and so he works. The second element is purpose. You must know, clearly, precisely, what you want. Wattles says that a vague desire for wealth in general is not enough. You need a specific vision, a specific goal. Not because the universe needs the details, but because you do. A clear purpose organizes your energy. It tells your mind where to focus. It gives direction to every action. And the third element, the one Wattles considers perhaps the most powerful of all, is gratitude. Not gratitude as a polite courtesy, not gratitude as something you feel after things go well. Gratitude as a living, active, daily practice. Gratitude felt now, for what you have now, for what is already on its way. Why is gratitude so important? Because, Wattles explains, gratitude connects you to the source of all good things. When you are genuinely grateful, you are in harmony with the creative force. You are aligned with abundance. And the more you give thanks for what you have, the more you attract into your life things to be thankful for. It is one of the great upward spirals of human experience. Chapter 6. Using the will. Now, Wattles makes a distinction that is profound and often misunderstood. He talks about the will, and he says something that might surprise you. He says, do not use your will to try to get what others have. Do not try to take from anyone else. Do not try to force circumstances, manipulate people, or win by making others lose. This is a critical point. There is a competitive model of wealth, the idea that the world has a fixed amount of money, and if you get more, someone else gets less. Wattles completely rejects this. He says, wealth is not a pie to be divided. It is an ocean to be drawn from. There is always more. Creation does not subtract, it adds. The person who gets rich through competition, who wins by making others lose, builds on a shaky foundation. They create resentment, they close doors, they cut themselves off from the goodwill of others, and, Wattles would say, from the creative flow of the universe itself. The person who gets rich through creation, who brings something new into the world, who offers genuine value, who leaves everyone they touch better off than before, that person builds on solid ground. They grow, they attract, they flourish, and the people around them flourish too. So where does the will come in? You use your will, Wattles says, to govern your own mind, to hold your vision steady when doubt appears, to return to gratitude when worry pulls you away, to maintain your faith when results are slow to show. Your will is not a weapon pointed outward, it is a guardian pointed inward. Chapter 7. Acting in Faith. Here, Wattles arrives at something deeply practical, because for all its philosophy, this is not a book about thinking alone. Wattles is absolutely clear. Thought without action does nothing. In Wattles's view, wealth will not come to a person who simply sits and dreams. You must act every day, efficiently, powerfully, now. But here is the key. You must act in the present. Not someday, not when conditions are perfect, not when you feel ready. Now, with whatever is in front of you, right now, in your current circumstances. The person who waits for the perfect moment discovers that the perfect moment never quite arrives. Wattles makes a beautiful distinction between doing today's work efficiently and hurrying anxiously. He says, do not hurry. Haste and anxiety are signs of fear, not faith. But do not be idle either. Move steadily, calmly, purposefully, like a river moving toward the sea. It does not rush, it does not stop. It simply flows, always in one direction. He also speaks about efficiency. Do not scatter your energy across 100 small tasks while missing the one or two that truly matter. Look at what is in front of you today. Do it well. Do it with full attention and full intention. Pour your whole self into every present action, because every present action done in the certain way carries the seed of greater things. And always, always hold your vision in your mind while you act. Do not lose yourself in the mechanical details of work until you have forgotten why you are working. The vision gives the work meaning. The work gives the vision reality. Together, they become unstoppable. Chapter 8. The Right Business. A question that every reader naturally asks is, does it matter what I do? Can I become rich in any profession, any industry, any circumstance? Wattles says, largely yes, but there is a condition. You must be working in a field that is compatible with your natural abilities, your nature. He does not say you need to love every moment of your work. He says something more specific. The work you do must be something that draws on your gifts. When you work with your natural talents, when the work calls on the best of who you are, you work with greater efficiency, greater joy, and greater creative power. He also recognizes that some people are in the wrong place, not because they are failures, but because they are trying to grow in soil that is wrong for them. A rose planted in poor soil can struggle and produce small, pale flowers. The same rose, transplanted into rich, deep earth, blooms magnificently. Same rose, different soil, different result. If you genuinely feel that your current work is not your work, that it does not use your gifts, that it does not excite any part of you, Wattles does not say to quit immediately. He says, begin to move, think, plan, take small steps toward the work that is yours. Do not make reckless leaps, but do not stay frozen either. Begin moving in the right direction, and you may start to recognize opportunities that were previously invisible to you. Chapter 9. The Impression of Increase. Here is one of the most practical and beautiful ideas in the entire book. Wattles says, every person you meet is instinctively searching for growth, for increase, for more life, more possibility, more of everything good. It is one of the deepest human drives, and when someone meets you and genuinely feels that being around you increases them, they will be drawn to you. He calls this the impression of increase, and it is not a performance, it is not a sales technique, it is the natural effect of a person who is genuinely living in the certain way, who is growing, expanding, creating, radiating a kind of energy that says, there is more here, there is possibility here. And this connects directly to how Wattles says you must approach every transaction, every relationship, every exchange. Give more in use value than you receive in cash value. This means whatever you are paid, make sure the person who pays you receives something worth more than what they gave. Not in cost, in value, in experience, in quality, in care. Imagine a craftsman who takes great pride in every piece he makes. He could do the minimum, produce just enough to be paid, but instead he puts his full skill, his full attention, his full love into his work. The person who receives it feels the difference. They do not just buy a product, they receive something that carries within it the spirit of excellence. And they come back and they tell others. This principle, Wattles argues, is not just good ethics, though it is good ethics. It is also the most reliable business strategy ever conceived. People gravitate toward those who make them feel increased. They trust them, they invest in them, they remain loyal, and that loyalty, that trust, is the foundation of lasting wealth. Chapter 10. Gratitude and the Principle of Increase. Think about the law of increase in nature. When a tree grows, it does not hold its fruit to itself. It gives abundantly. And in giving, in scattering its seeds across the earth, it ensures that more trees will grow, more life, more abundance. The very act of generous giving is how nature multiplies itself. Wattles says human wealth works the same way. When we are grateful, we are open, we are receptive, we are in the flow. When we are resentful, fearful, or closed, we cut ourselves off. Like a tree that for some impossible reason refused to let go of its fruit. Nothing new could grow. He recommends making gratitude a daily, deliberate practice. Every morning, before the busyness of the day arrives, spend a few moments in genuine, specific thankfulness. Not for what might come, but for what already is. Your health, your mind, the people you love, the work you have, the air you breathe. Begin each day in that state of openness and abundance, and watch how differently the day unfolds. Chapter 11. The Complete Method, an Invitation to Begin. In the final chapters of his book, Wattles draws everything together. He gives us the method in full, not as something complicated, but as something elegant in its simplicity. Because the truth is, Wattles never believed that getting rich required unusual intelligence or extraordinary talent. He believed it required ordinary people doing certain things in a certain way, consistently, faithfully, day after day. Here, then, is the method. First, form a clear, vivid mental image of exactly what you want to become and what you want to have. Not a vague hope, a clear picture. See it, feel it, know it is yours. Hold this image with absolute faith and perfect gratitude. Return to it every day. Second, act. Every day do the very best possible with what is in front of you right now. Do not wait for better circumstances. Do not wait for inspiration. Do not wait until you feel ready. Do your present work with full power, full efficiency, full intention. Each action done this way opens the next door. Third, give more than you receive. In every relationship, every transaction, every piece of work, give value that exceeds what is expected. Not to be praised, not because you hope to be rewarded, but because that is the way of creation. That is how, in Wattles' vision, abundance flows. Fourth, maintain your mental attitude. Guard your mind. Return to faith when doubt comes, and doubt will come. Return to gratitude when fear arrives, and fear will arrive. This is not a one-time decision. It is a daily practice, a daily choice. Every morning you choose your mental world. Choose it wisely. And fifth, perhaps most importantly, begin. Not when conditions are perfect, not when you are fully prepared. Not when you have read one more book, attended one more course, saved one more month. Begin now, with what you have, where you are, doing what you can. In Wattles' philosophy, movement opens possibilities. Waiting does not. Wattles ends his book with a quiet kind of urgency. He says the world needs people who are genuinely fully alive, people who are growing, creating, contributing, people who have enough to give freely, to think clearly, to love generously. The world does not need more people ground down by poverty and struggle. It needs people who have risen. And rising, he insists, is not selfish. It is your duty, to yourself, to those you love, and to the world that needs what only you, fully alive, can give. Closing reflection. Why this book has never died. More than a century has passed since Wallace Wattles sat at his writing desk in the American Midwest and set these ideas down on paper. He was a man who had known real failure, years of struggle, disappointment, and poverty. He was not writing from a position of easy success. He was writing from hard-won understanding. He died just 1 year after the book was published, never knowing the legacy his words would leave, never imagining someone listening to them through a device held in the palm of a hand. Modern science has not confirmed Wattles' belief that thought directly shapes a universal substance, but psychology has demonstrated something more limited and practical. Our beliefs and expectations influence what we notice, how we interpret events, how persistently we act, and which opportunities we pursue. Thoughts may not create wealth by themselves, but they can shape the behavior through which circumstances begin to change. The ethical dimension of the book is easy to miss, but it matters. Wattles is not teaching selfishness. He is teaching a philosophy of creation and generosity. Get rich not by taking, but by giving. Not by defeating others, but by adding value. Not by hoarding, but by increasing. This is a vision of wealth as a force for good in the world. Perhaps that is why, in a world that has sometimes turned wealth into a symbol of exploitation and inequality, this book still feels fresh. Wattles asks us to imagine another model, that creation, service, and increased value can allow one person to advance without requiring another person to lose. What you do with these ideas now is, of course, entirely your choice. You may agree with Wattles completely. You may question him. You may take parts and leave others. All of that is right and good. A great book does not demand agreement. It demands engagement, the willingness to think carefully, to examine your own beliefs, and to ask, what do I truly believe is possible for me? And if this listening experience has stirred even a small shift in how you see yourself and the world, if some part of you has felt a quiet awakening, a new possibility forming at the edge of your thoughts, then Wallace Wattles has done exactly what he set out to do. Across a century of silence, from his small desk in the American Midwest, he believed in you before you ever heard his name. He believed that inside every ordinary person is the capacity for an extraordinary life. All that is required, all that has ever been required, is to think in a certain way, act in a certain way, and begin. The seed does not ask whether the ground is ready. It simply gives itself, completely, faithfully, and trusts in what grows.